We are live and recording and video is on. We're good to go.
All right. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to call us to order. It is 5:01 for roll call. All board members are present. All right. First thing on our list is approval of minutes from the 3/12/2025 regular meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're to public comment. Just a reminder, 3 minutes per speaker, 30 minutes maximum. I've got one in person here. Do we have any online?
One online.
Perfect. I'll start here in the room. Brad Walker.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to see you. Haven't been here in a little while. I apologize for that. Wanted to make some comments about the Part 150 noise study. I think it's great that we're doing that. I know the community has asked for it. Staff, as well as the airport director, should be commended because they're including outreach from the community, and I think that that's to be commended. One thing I would like to point out, though, is if you're a party to a lawsuit against the airport, you probably should not be serving on the Part 150 noise study. That is not something that I'm making up. At the state level, Colorado Aeronautical Board, if you apply for their position at the State Aeronautical Board, they have a line that you certify that you're not a party to any lawsuit that could adversely affect a decision, as well as any kind of embarrassing information that would bring embarrassment to the governor or yourself. So I think that being a party to a lawsuit and suing the airport and asking to be on the Part 150 community input would definitely be an embarrassment to the airport as well as the people. It would also raise potential conflict of interest questions. So other than that, I think what you're doing is great, and keep up the good work, and thanks for taking my comments.
Thank you, Brad. All right, we'll go to our online comment.
All right, Randy Johnson, I'm unmuting you now.
Good evening, Randy. Can you hear us? Hey, Randy. You with us?
Yeah, you can hear me? Okay. Yeah, I have to do a button. Yeah, this is Randy Johnson from Louviers. I'm going to do my normal. I wrote down 364 training planes in April. Let me see, no, March. And I actually submitted 38 or 39, I'm not sure, complaints to Centennial Airport and 8 to Rocky Mountain. And the reason that the ones went up in Centennial is planes were turning and flying directly over. I think they were checking to see if I was actually home. And so I just wanted to let them know. And I think the Rocky, I didn't get a chance to look at, but I think some are flying, directly over and a little bit louder. So I just wanted to make you aware. But I want to say most of the planes are still being spread out. So they're not all directly overhead. I am getting the plane starting, flying at night, and coming over pretty regularly, down our corridor. Last night, for example, I think they started, I'm going to say around 8, and there was still some at 10 p.m. or 10:30 or something like that. Just an FYI. And one thing I was going to mention that the other person mentioned Part 150. Actually, Centennial Airport's Part 150 public meeting is tonight, going on right now. I didn't go because I'm not necessarily, it's closer to the airport, where it's attacked. But I actually caught COVID last week. I think I'm on the mend, but I sure don't want to get anybody sick. So that's one reason I didn't attend their meeting. But that's all I have that I can think of. But thank you.
Thanks, Randy. Hope you're feeling better from COVID.
I'm getting.
All right. That ends our public comment section. We're going to move into our business items, and the presentations that we've been having have been a pretty big hit. So we're real excited for Dr. Adams to introduce our next speaker and talk about Civil Air Patrol.
Okay. Well, on behalf of RMA Advisory Board, I'd like to welcome all of you, but especially Captain Martin Kelly, who's going to be talking to us this evening about Civil Air Patrol. I've known Martin for at least 6 years, and he's an unbelievable pilot. He's great. He started to study petroleum engineering, and at that time, as an undergrad, he learned to fly. That's where his heart is, I think, in the skies. Because as an MBA student in Arizona, he went on then to get multi-engine rating as well as other ratings. And he flew a lot in the Southwest area, especially over Grand Canyon. And then he did a lot of overseas work in engineering and came back to dear old Colorado, settled here in 2011. And he's been flying here ever since. He's a primary pilot with Civil Air Patrol. He has a wing, Maine state of Colorado position. He has been on many what we call red caps, which is an actual search. And I had the privilege of joining him on one of those about 1.5 years ago. It was one of the highlights of my life. And he's here to tell us about Civil Air Patrol and what they're doing. Welcome.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Very much. Is it okay if I stand up here? Is that gonna work for you? So I can sort of stand next to the slides and talk this way?
Absolutely.
Okay, very good. Thanks very much. Thanks very much for the time. So let me present about Civil Air Patrol. Has anybody not heard of Civil Air Patrol before? Okay, very good. We're starting a good place. And I know Eric has attended one of our squadron meetings. We certainly appreciate that. So thank you very much. We'll go into briefly a history of the Civil Air Patrol, kind of where we're from now, what we stand for and what we do. And in particular, what we do in Colorado and what we do out of this airport. Very fortunate to have the squadron based here at Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport. So brief history, if you hit the next point here real quick. And our genesis is World War II, or just before. And we were chartered to search for German U-boats, principally in the Gulf Coast and the Atlantic coasts. We got after World War II, we got a congressional charter, and then we became an auxiliary of the U.S. Air Force in 1948. I'll just highlight some of the points from World War II activity. As you go through here, you can read about the submarines observed and bombs dropped against them. We've gotten away from dropping bombs, fortunately, in this day and age. Convoy missions, missions flown, sorties, and flight hours logged. And this was not without peril, as you can appreciate. We faced 26 fatalities, 90 aircraft lost during the course of that time. But as a result of this, the benefit was seen principally by the U.S. government of Civil Air Patrol. Give you an idea, we allowed cadets circa 1942, age 15 to 17, and this was kind of a gateway or a channel into aviation. And at the time, obviously benefited our armed forces. Additionally, 20% of our members at the time were women. 50% of the pilots for WASP, the Women Air Force Service, P escapes me right now in WASP. Anyway, came from Civil Air Patrol. I apologize for that. Thanks. All right, and let's talk about today now. You get a sense of the history, the genesis, the depth of the Civil Air Patrol. We are an official auxiliary of the Air Force, part of their total force, and you'll see now that our logo kind of is fashioned. I'll show you towards the end, closer to the Air Force's logo. And in terms of volunteers, you can see how sizable the organization is across the 50 states, plus Puerto Rico and District of Columbia, largest single owners of single fleet of single engine aircraft in the United States, in the world, actually. And then we have a number of volunteer, emergency response vehicles, and then get a sense of the volunteer hours contributed annually. And we have 3 primary missions, one of them being emergency services, and this is perhaps maybe what you're familiar with, the search and rescue, disaster response. We do a lot of airborne photography. That's typically for an agency such as FEMA. This is post-disaster, capture, photojournalize what's happened, get fairly immediate response back, pictures back to government agencies and some humanitarian support. Then next off, our cadet programs, and that's what I alluded to, that began in 1942, principally aged 12 through 20. And what we offer is a kind of a leadership development program in aviation for them. and include fitness, cybersecurity, community involvement, and STEM opportunities. And then a big part of what we do today and what Dr. Barb Adams does is aerospace education in support of schools, teachers, and the public nationwide STEM activities. I'll provide a little more detail on aerospace education. Just to give you a sense of how we're set up across the nation, we're chartered in each individual states, but we do have a kind of a smaller span of command, and that's in terms of these regions you see here. Typically, there's about 6 or 7 squadrons per region. As you can appreciate here, Colorado, our wing is in the Rocky Mountain region. And then in terms of a presence, each one of those triangles, so a few years ago, represents a squadron that we have based across the country, not necessarily at an airport, but at least providing the cadet training. And I don't have yet the 2024 numbers. I think they're supposed to come together and go on a report to Congress here in the next few weeks, but I'll give you the 23 just to give you a sense of our span of control, what we do, what size of the operations we have. There's a sense of the number of hours flown in our aircraft of 540. Now, these are missions, search and rescue, disaster relief that we've conducted across the country. These aren't flights. These are an umbrella of funding plus target objectives and so forth, from which we then create, manifest, and execute searches, for example, training. And then we have another set of missions that are in support of the cadets, in support of pilot proficiency, in support of aircrew training, and in support of the Air Force and Air National Guard. I'll touch on a few of those in a second, give you a quick couple of examples. There's an estimate of the value of volunteer services. We provide over $250 million per year in terms of hours dedicated to our efforts and to our communities which we serve. 230 fines. What that represents is we're tasked with about 85% of the searches conducted over the continental U.S. by the Air Force Rescue Coordination Center. Fine represents finding a target, whether it be a vehicle, a person locator, beacon, and the like. And then of those fines, the Air Force Rescue Coordination Center reckons we saved about 60 lives in 2023. Then getting over to a little more on the aerospace education side, a big part of what we're doing involves the creation and the dissemination of these STEM kits to educators and then for use in public schools, grades K through 12. We have a set of education programs on offer for teachers, kind of a syllabus, if you will, geared towards aviation and aerospace. And then we reckon we've managed to reach out in one way, shape, or form with our programs, with our STEM kits, and with our outreach in the community, 600,000 plus students across the country. That gives you a sense. I made reference to our cadet programs, and on offer to each and every cadet are 5 orientation flights that we can offer. Kind of a build up, stair step. They do take the controls, steep bank turns, imminent stalls, basic flight, and so forth. So that's a sense of how many of those we offered in 2023. We have academic and flight scholarships for the cadets, and kind of important too in this funneling, this channeling, this development of aviation in our community. 500 plus in 2023 alone of private pilot wings have been attributed to our training program. That one's standing out. Well, let's dive down a little now into Colorado and our operations across the state. And in terms of resources, you can read the numbers very well. Over 2,000 members. We've got 27 squadrons across the state. We maintain a fleet of about 15 aircraft, give or take 1 or 2 at a time, depending, plus a glider for training purposes, obviously ground-based vehicles. And then important to us and important to the state in terms of should there be a far-ranging natural disaster, a lot of communications set up, old radio broadcasts and so forth to stay in touch. In terms of what we did, and I do have the 2024 numbers for Colorado Wing, and keep in mind we're in line with the government, so our fiscal year begins in October. We did have 5 search and rescue missions with some very good results too. We do the defense intercept training, principally with the Air National Guard, so we'll serve as a bogey aircraft, if you will. We'll enter a TFR and F-16 will be scrambled to intercept us. And so they appreciate the training, the low services that we can provide. We have the 7 missions dedicated to cadet training, and that's not just within the Civil Air Patrol CAP. We also help out with the Air Force ROTC and the Junior ROTC. And let's see, we had additional airport support missions. So that might be, for example, across Colorado for aviators, you've seen the low-level training routes and so forth, and those need to be surveyed every so often just to make sure nothing shows up for our Air Force fighter pilots. And training missions to keep our pilots proficient and our crews proficient as well. And we do the ad hoc missions for the state. An example would be for Douglas County. We do a fire watch in the summertime during thunderstorm season, just to be on the lookout for any signs of incipient fire for them. And then in terms of some headlines from last year, total hours flown there. Obviously, we do the flood and wildlife support, principally photos after the fact. There's our 1,000+ cadet orientation flights, and we're working to move those numbers up and get more through the program, which you can appreciate. And then an estimate of our volunteer hours, what that might translate to be in terms of services provided.
How many of those cadet flights are coming out of Rocky Mountain versus other airports?
Yeah, so I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but we've just kind of upped the ante where our pace is about 2 of those override flight days per month. And any during one of those periods, we're typically doing about 8 to 12. We'll check that, 9 to 15. Just depends on how many pilots we can get and aircraft and cadets available on that particular day. All right, let's then just go down to our squadron here real quick, and that's the one I belong to, based here, and that Eric has appreciate that. We have 46 members. We do have a late model Cessna 182 turbocharged, great for the mountains. We're very, very fortunate, a flight simulator in our office, very fortunate to have the hangar and the hangar office for training, for mission flight preparation, monitoring, and execution. Let me tell you, it is outstanding. We could not do our work without these facilities that are provided by the airport in terms of maintaining the aircraft, be ready to go. You can appreciate on cold mornings, having an aircraft that's in a hangar that's plugged in, warmed up, plus an office we can go to do the mission prep and get ready to stay safe. And again, that same office is used for the simulator. It's used for our cadet training programs, and it's used for our emergency service personnel for their training. And last but not least, it also can serve as a mission base, as you see in a couple of these photographs, to manage our resources if we're doing a search. So big thank you to Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport. Thank you for this, and thank you for having me. All right, in terms of some notable activities and missions for our squadron over the years, highlight a couple of these for the Front Range floods, if you recall those from 2013. Most of the photo acquisition sorties were run out of Rocky Mountain Metro. We were going nonstop, 6 days, morning to evening, in and out. We did send a crew down to Houston Galveston, 2 crews and an aircraft for the post-Hurricane Harvey recovery photo recon there. By virtue of the fact that we're fortunate to have 2 hangars, the Boulder Squadron has a hangar here. We were able to maintain an aircraft for Colorado here at Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport while that aircraft was gone. ICP stands for Incident Command Post. It served the hangar officer, the Incident Command Post for a search. I don't know if you recall the missing 210 out of Erie in 2018 on its way to Utah, got as far as Mosquito Pass. Unfortunately, that was it. Downed aircraft, an experimental at the Buffalo Peak Wilderness, for to locate on site were a bunch of ground crews, helicopter and so forth. And it was our aircraft and our crew that was able to spot that aircraft first. That unfortunate outcome for its pilot, but nonetheless spotted. And then we've done a multitude of missing person searches, not only in Glen Haven, but also Rocky Mountain National Park at least a couple times, based with aircraft based out here at Rocky Mountain National Park. Now the pictures show up. All right. If you could go through quickly. Sorry, that was that guy. Yeah, that's how it works. We'll do some better editing next time. Just in terms of where we stand, and somewhere between 1 to 2 dozen flight ops per month, but it can vary quite a bit. And a lot is dependent upon the weather time of year. Of course, I mentioned the cadet orientation rides. We've got to keep our air crews trained, proficient, up to date, up to speed on things, and certainly our pilots. And we have a pilot program that starts with basically a VFR pilot. They work their way up to an orientation pilot. Then there's a search pilot, but flatland only, and eventually to mountain flight, mountain search. That's kind of the top level, if you will. And it's a difficult program to make your way through, I think, as you can appreciate. It's one thing flying around or above the mountains. It's another thing flying a little closer to the ground and looking for missing individuals or aircraft. I think there's one more, right? And a good point here, and coming back to my reference to having the ability or having a hangar and having someplace warm to go to and having someplace to prep and be safe. We're available 24/7, principally daylight hours, as you can appreciate, but the prep starts beforehand. ELT searches, missing persons, downed aircraft, natural disaster, recovery and assistance. Just looking ahead now, and I just wanted to highlight a couple things over here real quick. You know, this is our standard seal and so forth. There's our new symbol in line, if you can picture what the Air Force is going with these days. Cadet training, not just in this case orienteering. So in some states, we provide not just air crews, but ground crews for search and rescue. That states that don't necessarily have a a memo of understanding with the sheriffs, where they can call us out in the air, and where many counties, for example, in Colorado, have ground-based search and rescue efforts, such as Larimer County Search and Rescue or Mountain Search and Rescue out of Boulder County and the like. Another point over here, last point in the upper right corner, we have a large forensics team and this is radio signal, air signal, or cellular signal forensics that can get the data from phone companies, get the data from radar returns. It doesn't have to be ADS-B. It can just be painting that might be available if the ADS-B was turned off, and put things together pretty quickly in real time and direct search efforts and pinpoint them rather quickly. In terms of our squadron and the Colorado wing, we certainly want to maintain and strengthen our partnership with the airport. Appreciate what's been done, what we can do, and what's been done for us. Certainly we want to continue our safe and professional operations, hence the need for our training and being part of the community, the aviation community at the airport. As alluded to before, with regard to the cadet programs, getting the next generation involved with regard to efforts we do and the orientation rides in particular, or flights. And then what's on offer is exploration of any other shared initiatives that you might foresee, open houses, any STEM events, any natural disaster planning, and what we've done in the past is provided our cadets for event marshaling for aircraft. So always on offer there for you at the Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport. And that is it for my presentation. It's just a short time, so I kept it brief, but I do have a little time, I think, for some questions, and then I can move on, if there are any.
Questions?
Where do you get your funding from? Comes from the federal government through the U.S. Air Force. It's an appropriation that's done annually. And so we're funded through the end of September this fiscal year right now. Yeah. If you go online, you'll see what that funding is. I think it's on the order of $91 million annually. Large share is aircraft maintenance. Yes, Dan.
Listen, to ask this, I'm carefully asking you to carefully answer me. We all heard about your loss last year.
Yeah.
And is there anything you can tell us about that we should know and should know?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. I'm not prepared to go into specifics. You certainly can see the NTSB preliminary report out there. I will say that as you know, we lost two very dear members from our Thompson Valley squadron based at Fort Collins. The surviving member is a member of the Jefferson County Senior Squadron. He's recovering quite well, and we're very fortunate. When he is ready, I'm sure he'll be making presentations, tell you more what happened.
She will.
I'll let him know. Thank you.
Any other questions? And you want to add?
Just that, I'm real involved with the aerospace education program. And it's something I kind of fell into when I joined Civil Air Patrol. But I love it. I love talking with teachers and students and showing them the exciting world of, be it cyber, be it aviation, aerospace, space, whatever. And we're getting really good response, and it's been very overwhelming to see that success.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, next item on the business items is the pavement management plan.
Okay, that's gonna be me, and as we get closer to summertime, we start thinking about pavement projects happening at the airport. And so once Ben's got loaded up, we'll work our way through the slide.
It's free.
Don't pass it.
There we go.
Oh, my gosh.
There we go.
Hey, next slide.
All in the box.
I like we need like a theme song.
Uh, Sometimes it's
This one.
next one.
There you go.
Okay, cool, locked in. All right, so every few years, Colorado Department of Transportation does a pavement survey at the airport for the pavement condition index. And they survey a lot of the pavement at the airport, some of it including private leaseholds, but in this case, on the screen in front of you and in the agenda, you can see the overall pavement condition of the airport for certain areas. Green being better, and I don't know, that brown reddish color being worse than good. And so it helps us plan a little bit on some of our projects at the airport and kind of phasing some of our projects and where we're going to hop to do different pavement projects over the summer. Next slide. So this year we have 4 different projects planned and about 93,400 square feet of projects. Those 4 projects are spread around the north apron there, between over by runway 3, a little bit over between some hangars, Bravo 3, and northwest corporate and some milling storage. And we'll go through each of those sites here as well. So the overall hauling routes for these projects are shown here with green lines indicating generally where you'd expect truck traffic to be delivering asphalt or hauling off millings once millings or paved milling has taken place. And then red lines indicating roughly the border of those specific projects. Next slide. So project number 1 is about 2,100 square feet existing over on the 321 runway, which will be a mill and overlay of that area to recover some of that pavement and improve the pavement condition there. You can see this kind of like part, I guess, 3 of a 3-phase project where you can see we were there before. And the current project will be a 2-phase project for a generally rectangle area and then catching up to where we were there in the past. And next slide. Project number 2 that we have is about 2,800 square feet at Bravo 3. Once again, you can see we were in the area once before and we're catching up and doing the other side of the pavement in that area as well. Next slide. Project number 3 is probably the bigger project, including 7,200 or 7,200, 800 square feet in 2 different projects, really. We have priority 1, which is the green area, and then we have the red areas there for about 5,400 square feet of pavement project to be completed. Pavement project number 4 is about 1,250 or 12,500 square feet of pavement located in one of our T hangar areas to replace aging, spalling pavements located there. Generally, that's the projects. I do have Steve Kirby, who is our head of airfield maintenance, who can answer specific projects about those if you have them. Otherwise, I just wanted to give you a heads up as to what projects you would see this summer.
Are these all out of general fund of the airport or are these any FAA granted?
I believe these are all locally funded projects.
Correct.
The ones that had phases, are they all happening or is there caps constraints on which phases happen?
They're all happening. They're really phased to continue to keep traffic continuing through there, just to avoid any conflict between the two.
It's the note on project 3 about SimCorp.
Small corporate, that's the first section what I did is I broke small corporate into those 4 sections, and this year we're doing the section 1 in the green. That's just some really aging asphalt that's starting to lose its connection to the rest, so we're gonna try to get that cleaned up, and we'll continue with the other 3 phases as we move forward.
It looks like you've done something previously. Is that the black?
Yes, that was done, actually, it's quite old too, but in really good condition, so we're gonna go around that. We are also, it's not included in this, but we're gonna fog seal main corporate and small corporate, and that's just an attempt to try to keep it together a little longer until I can complete these projects.
What is fog sealing?
Fog seal is, they spray it down, there's crack seal where we just do the cracks. Fog seal covers the entire piece of pavement. And it's normally a rejuvenating action that you're going for. The age of this asphalt, what I'm going for, it really will just kind of contain any loose materials and keep it together a little longer, so we don't have any fog coming loose. We're doing we did runway 30 right 2 years ago, and we're doing 30 left this year as well. And really, it's a rejuvenating product. Puts a little more oil back into that asphalt.
All of these projects are mill and overlay, or are they some mill and overlay and some crack seal? Or
These ones are all mill and overlay this year. Sometimes I have to do some more depth and I have to go full depth, reclamations. This year I don't have any of those. It's all just mill and overlay. We're doing 3-inch out, 3-inch back in.
Okay, and do you ever do, I think in the city we call it chip seal or slurry seal, where you put slurry down and then rock on top of it?
You know, we have here before and before my time, and I'm not against it if you have a plan for a short-term repair, because it doesn't last as long in these situations. On roads where you're long distances, you get a lot more benefit from it. Here, what I'm running into, and I did last year, was repaired a bunch of it because it just starts coming apart. And when it does, it all seems to do it at the same time.
Right.
So it becomes a big problem. So I try to avoid that, although it's not unheard of.
Sure.
I'm just trying to get what I can before I have to get to that point, if I can stay ahead of it.
Yeah, and then on your map, you mentioned there's a spot for millings to go. Ultimately, what happens to those millings? Are they, reused on site, or are they eventually trucked off? Is that just like a temporary thing, or?
Both, to be honest with you. We've used them in some of our BSRs that go around the airport are all millings. We've also shared those with Jefferson County. Maybe 7 years ago, we did all of Coal Creek Canyon's edges with that. We just keep it on hand for those instances. And sometimes we do have people reach out to us if we have some available. Usually it's Jefferson County that we share it with. We try to keep it, though, again, just it reduces the cost of the job, for them having to haul it off. And it's something we can use in the end.
Good thinking.
Yes, sir.
How many days does one of those sections take? And will there be a detailed schedule posted?
There will be, and what I've requested in the bid has just gone out, so it should be coming to bid soon. But what I've asked for is that each one be done within 24 hours. That isn't always possible. At the worst case scenario, they'll be 48 hours. They'll remove it one day and replace it the next. And what I'll do is, before any of this takes place, I always take the time to find out who's in the hangars right there. And I try to reach out to them, let them know, do you have a conflict? Can we move you to another place? Or let them know so maybe they can change their plans. And it usually works out pretty good. Last year we had a couple that were tricky, but we got them all done pretty quick.
And we'll share all that information on Constant Contact, our newsletter.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna ask, where are you redirecting the larger, heavier traffic that normally goes through that road? If it takes 48 hours, for example.
What we'll have to do is run them through main corporate up instead of the small corporate on that. And though I don't have a lot of large traffic there, but we do at times when things get blocked up. So we'll take that into account. And if we have a situation like In your guys' case, we'd have a big event or something where you're expecting a lot of traffic. We'll try to adjust for that.
So that would be to go south.
Absolutely. We'll try to go main corporate first. If we do, we'll reach out to you and maybe use your lane.
Cool, thanks.
I do appreciate the Q and A, but we're not really supposed to do Q and A, so let's stick on focus.
Any other questions on the pavement?
Starting
anytime.
As soon as I get the bids, but I'm looking at, to be honest with you, it's probably gonna be the end of June, early July, with hope. The bids take some time. Sure.
All right. Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Next up, we've got taxiway F discussion.
All right, this one's mine, and I get to welcome you into the world of airport planning a little bit. I think a lot of us focus on this side of the field, so we'll have to kind of transition our brains over to the south side of the field for a minute, which is where some of our current capital projects are focused and where future development is focused. And so we want to talk about taxiway Foxtrot, which if you go back to our 2011 airport master plan, was conceived as this parallel taxiway Delta. And then it would feed kind of development spreading east and west in the south development area, or what we now call the southwest development area. And you can see on this picture how it would potentially feed a bank of hangars kind of along and going across what's now Calendar Drive, along with hangars up and down taxiway Delta or Foxtrot in the future. So that was the plan back in 2011. And as you can see, a part of that was actually built. So that's the section right here that, there would be absolutely no reason to find an aircraft on this section. And the section that is used by aircraft are used simply for Pilatus to access their ramp. And that's kind of its current condition. So you saw that's this section that got built right along here. And that was built a number of years ago. One section of it was built with a pretty substandard subgrade. So it's not, if we wanted to use it in the future, it's not in a condition that we could just build off of. We'd have to demolish it and rebuild anyway. So what we're looking at right now is we don't think there will be another taxi lane that would cross Calendar Drive, and that section's shown on the airport master plan. We're already bisecting it once with taxiway Kilo, which will be built starting this year. And we don't see a second taxiway crossing. So that section, as I just mentioned, primarily serves as access to the Pilatus leasehold. The taxiway project, Kilo and Delta, does not have a section to extend Foxtrot across the project limits. It will not extend it as part of that project. And then, as I'll show on a future slide, the development that's currently considered across taxiway Kilo from Pilatus is not reliant on a dual parallel taxiway Foxtrot. So this is the kind of the project limits for one phase of taxiway Kilo and Delta. And so you can see that this is a section of Delta that's going to be reconstructed. And then this is the section of taxiway Kilo that's being extended. And if you can faintly see this line right here, this is the existing taxiway Foxtrot. And the current plan is to build just a vehicle service road connection essentially to Kilo to allow vehicles to cross onto this. Partly that decision was made because of the conditions of that section of Foxtrot, and also because, as I'll get to, we don't see a huge need to continue Foxtrot along. So this is kind of the imminent development we're aware of. We have a seat fabrication facility that Pilatus is about to enter permitting for. That's being built in front of the paint facility. That is not reliant on Foxtrot for any sort of access. They will be using, it's not for aircraft at all. And then currently aircraft use this section of Foxtrot to access their paint facility and their completion center. This little connection you see here is actually a vehicle gate connection. And this is all actually just automobile parking for the employees and staff and visitors for any of these facilities of Pilatus. And then on the other side of Kilo and Delta is the first phase of what's projected fixed base operation. They were signed a ground lease with Jefferson County in 2024, and they've been through their due diligence period, and so they have concept plans, and they're looking at proceeding with development. And so this is kind of their initial concept, and they would take down these first 2 hangars, but the proposal is they'd have a bank of hangars here, and then they have an option for this section as well for another bank of hangars. They don't see a need as well for any Foxtrot connection across or between their leaseholds when Delta exists. One, so what that leads us to is what we're proposing is that we convert the existing section of taxiway Foxtrot into a vehicle service road for the following reasons. As I mentioned, the adjacent developments are not in need of a dual parallel taxiway. And then I kind of look at it as if we build a second parallel taxiway that no one needs, that's a second parallel taxiway that this airport needs to maintain going forward. And it's maintenance for Steve into the future. And it's just additional capital maintenance that we take on for questionable public benefit. If anything, it would serve some leaseholds, but it's not really serving the true purpose of a taxiway, which is really to get aircraft through the field and access the rest of the airfield. This is similar to how taxiway Alpha is set up on this side of the field. We don't have dual parallel taxiways adjacent to runway 30 right. We have one, and then there's ramp that sometimes connects together, sometimes does not. And then we have a vehicle service road that somewhat parallels taxiway Alpha. So we're kind of recommending a similar setup on the south side of the field. And then we would leave those connections from taxiway Delta onto the Pilatus and FBO developments. Those would remain as actual airport movement areas, but not contiguous or parallel to Delta for the remainder. And so this is what that would look like in the short term as part of the taxiway Kilo Delta project. We would actually construct a vehicle service road paved as it crosses Kilo, but then probably out of millings in that ultimate alignment of the vehicle service road. And if you know this airfield, this should start looking similar to how it is along taxiway Alpha on this side of the field. And then, so that would be built as part of Kilo. And then kind of longer term, as those developments occur, we would submit an airport layout plan revision to the FAA to reflect, basically to say, hey, FAA, we do not plan to extend taxiway Foxtrot any further. And we actually recommend that the sections that exist, perhaps in front of the Pilatus facility, are just converted into a vehicle service road so that we don't have to maintain an extra wide pavement section into the future. We'll just leave those ramp connections that Pilatus needs or the FBO needs in the future, but convert the rest. And so we will illustrate those construction plans and the projected plans on that new airport layout plan revision. And then we're also overlaying a conceptual build out of the southwest development area. And I just want to emphasize that on a slide coming up, that's completely conceptual. We've talked about issuing a request for proposals that would really kind of hopefully drive highest and best use for development proposals in that area. So this is the 2011 airport layout plan, and we kind of talked about how Foxtrot was envisioned at the time to extend a bank of hangars on the west side and then extend all the way to the Broomfield water tanks on the east side. This is the proposed revision. So just so you know, in terms of the total revision, we're just reflecting the facilities that have since been built on the airport since the 2011 airport master plan. So primarily that's like the shelter development over here. And it's kind of interesting to see like all this recommended nautical development on that side. And then a lot of it has been built since then. And then a lot of these recommendations are just carried forward from the 2011 master plan. And we review other revisions to the airport layout plan through the actual master planning process, which is proposed to kick off, I think, in 2027 at this point. And then we have a conceptual development, as we've shown before in like the strategic business plan. But then if you focus on kind of this red oval, that's the section that we're really using to communicate to the FAA. And you kind of have to look carefully, but what it reflects is there's a new note that says former taxiway Foxtrot. and it allows for this ramp connection into Pilatus. But then if you see this hashes, this is basically converting it into a much narrower vehicle service road as that warrants. And then the removal of this section of Foxtrot that currently exists where it's kind of substandard conditions. And then the construction of a vehicle service road kind of in what we would view as a long-term permanent location for a VSR. That VSR is currently goes along the fence line along Calendar Drive right now. And so we know as development occurs in the future, as part of that FBO development, that vehicle service road's in the wrong place for them because it'd be crossing parking lots, hangars, aprons, that sort of thing. So this is kind of our message to the FAA in terms of buy taxiway Foxtrot. You made sense at one time, you don't make sense right now, and this is what we plan to construct in its place. So I think that's it. Happy to.
Foxtrot end up being substandard.
That's a good question. I wasn't here at the time, and I haven't heard the story. I don't know.
I actually
Do you have
wasn't
any
here
idea?
at the time either, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'd
just-
love to know. I would have to ask someone who's probably no longer on the tour field.
Okay.
Yeah.
They could have been, the FAA had used different methods in overtimes, and that's why we just reconstructed that portion of Alpha, was that it was built with that substandard subgrade. So I don't know if that's the case there, but that's one possibility. I thought it would work, it didn't.
Ben, is there any, I would assume that Foxtrot was built with grant funds, probably, at least some grant funds as part of it, am I?
That's potentially the case, but if so, it's probably outside the window for when if it's relevant anymore.
Right.
But actually, I'm not sure. I'd have to research that.
That was what I was gonna ask, is there any consequences of taking, funds that were
Yeah.
for a taxiway, converting it into, a different use?
Yeah.
Does the airport face any kind of, have a payback or equalize funding or anything?
Not that I'm aware of, and I would hope the FAA they'll understand that our actually interest here is to reduce overall maintenance costs
Right.
for the, fiscal health of the airport this is the reason we're going through this effort is to both think about it ourselves and think about it with the FAA and also you guys in terms of does this make sense and does this make sense in the long term? And we think it does.
Yeah, I think when you have that picture back there, go back like one slide, that one right there. As long as those two new developments there to the east of taxiway Kilo, as long as they're just, and I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be just fine with Delta, why they would want, two taxiways right there connecting them. I can't see of any reason for it to be there otherwise.
Yeah, that's been part of the conversation is if we were wanting to extend Foxtrot, we would probably look to them to construct it for us since it's their leasehold, they're developing, but then they turn around and want to give it to us to maintain. And so neither party sees a real benefit in doing that.
Other comments from the board?
So what FBO are you allowed to say what FBO is?
I don't believe I'm allowed to say it.
Okay.
All I can say is there's been a ground lease signed with the Jefferson County FBO ground lease.
Any other thoughts from the board?
I guess maybe I missed this earlier, but what would have been the advantages or what are we giving up with not extending Foxtrot versus going with Delta? To me, it's almost duplicative with two taxiways there. Is it just we're kind of reimagining what that development looks like, or is there something specific outside of maintenance, which I understand and I agree with? And why did the airport decide to go with two taxiways to begin with?
I think if you like in that master plan, it envisioned a long corridor of development along Delta and Foxtrot. And I think the way things are shaping out at the moment with the way Kilo is being built, it just will not be as long of a frontage along Delta and Foxtrot. So you're probably less likely to have, aircraft that are facing each other using one taxiway Delta in this case. There's perhaps other implications in terms of aircraft size, like if we wanted to get very large aircraft on that side of the field, potentially Foxtrot becomes the taxiway and Delta gets decommissioned to accommodate aircraft with larger wingspans. Again, something that we're not really envisioning at this point in time. in terms of like if you had like airline sized aircraft operating on the south side of the field, but knowing that 1-2 right, 3-0 left isn't really set up to handle that type of aircraft anyway, and that the taxiway we're building for Kilo and existing taxiway Delta are also built for smaller aircraft size, it's hard to envision that changing.
And I guess to your point, it's, this setup is very similar to Alpha. And that's why I was wondering, we don't have those conflicts that I am aware of as much with Alpha at all right now. So I was just curious why the two taxiways.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's to the point that it is a conflict. I mean, every once in a while you might have tower delaying an aircraft coming out of Legacy and taxiing against traffic who had just served, just feel that the self-serve and needs to get back to their hangar and, so it would save some delay potentially, and like some, individual scenarios, but maybe not worth it in the grand scheme.
Well, up to 2 years ago, all of that west parcel was non-aviation side until we redid SIM. So even as soon as 24 months ago, we assumed we couldn't go past that line anyway until we brought this inside the fence. I think that kind of changed that master plan as well.
And I'm assuming we still have the capability to develop further east towards the towers and the, are those water tanks? What are those? Water tanks. Water tanks.
Yeah, those are those Broomfield water tanks. That'll probably be there forever. And actually, interesting to note that that's actually one of the constraints of actually even having like a larger aircraft size or widening the like runways or taxiways on that side of the field is there's already those and other buildings that kind of constrain us there. But yeah, that's so kind of that oval shape is kind of reflects the largest extent likely for development on that side of the field.
Any other questions, comments, or advice from the board? All right, if you think of something afterwards, send it to Ben. We will move on to airport updates. The first one is taxiway KD.
All right, I'll take that. I was just partly relating it to this. So similar slide to last time, maybe the same, I can't remember. We're still working through utility work. Lumen is done. They've relocated and deepened their fiber optic lines. Still working through Excel. We're getting closer on that one in terms of rerouting a gas and electric line to allow the bisecting of Calendar Drive and the extension of taxiway Kilo. We've also awarded the contract to construct the airport perimeter fence that will enclose this taxiway in the southwest development area. So that's kind of a separate locally funded airport project that went out for bid. And then we're also working through Jeffco permitting for a right-of-way vacation and grading permit and those sorts of things. So we're getting closer on the construction start date. Excel is probably still kind of the greatest uncertainty in terms of timing.
They're at the table.
They are at the table. Yep. Unleaded fuel, we're working through this one as well. Our engineering firm Wolpert is well under design of this. We've seen 70% design plans and we're moving towards 90%. And we also have a draft bid documents for actually letting the project out for construction. And so we're just checking through the normal FAA procedural grant steps to actually get this project designed and installed in 2025. Separately, and I've mentioned this before, we're working on a request for proposals to select a fueling partner. And we have a draft of that. That's an internal review, and we need to have that kind of going concurrently so that we have someone putting fuel in aircraft. Any questions on that one? Okay. Part 150 airport noise study. You gonna take this one?
You can do this, I'll do the next one.
Okay. So as a reminder, and you guys have seen this before, but there's those two main phases, and we're currently in the first phase of noise exposure maps. We're still waiting on a key piece of information from the FAA to really get the existing data going, but they're also working on the land use inventory. And so I know work is ongoing there, even though it's being slightly delayed by a key piece of data. We are also working through the formation of advisory focus groups, and we just had a meeting where we talked about draft key dates for public engagement coming up. So I'm gonna let Eric
Just
talk.
going back to your NEMs, You said you're waiting on a key piece of information. Who is it was it from the FAA? Is it,
Correct.
so it's something that's not within our consultant's control. It's something
Correct.
beyond.
We've provided a formal request for a certain specific aircraft modeling data or existing aircraft track data that they maintain and own. And we have to get permission to get it, and we're just waiting on that.
Okay, so part of the previous slide was the focus groups the airport's working on. We have 3 different focus groups that work in unison to help the consultant ensure I guess, an enhanced Part 150 noise study. Well, certainly, right now we're accepting interest registration forms from airport users from April 4th through April 20th, 2025. That form is online at www.jeffco.us/focus groups. That is the same form for airport focus groups and community focus groups. There are social media channels that have that link and are requesting people who are interested in participating in this group to do that and fill out that form. One thing you guys will need to do today is to appoint someone from the Airport Advisory Board to serve as your participant for that group. And we're seeking participants also from the AAB, AOPA, CABA, FAA, the FAA, FSDO, FAA, ADO, ATC, an air taxi operator, an FBO, and flight training representatives for that airport focus group. So the next slide deals with the Part 150 community focus group, and we're really trying to figure out the best way to bring the community into this process to ensure that there really is a participation and input from all sides to ensure a broad spectrum of opinions for the airport. Whether that's people that like the airport, don't like the airport, or not, we really do want to make sure that all voices are heard for that. So in this case, same form, from April 4th through April 20th, they would fill out that form. Links are on social media, in constant contact. The link is there as well, www.jeffco.us/focus groups. And we're looking for 8 participants from the community to participate in that. There is kind of a map there that shows the traffic patterns that the FAA would commonly direct aircraft to fly, and the regions around the airport to ensure sort of a balanced representation between Town Superior, Westminster, and Broomfield. The next thing is community groups. So I guess what I'd ask for you guys today is to appoint someone from the AAB to serve on the airport user focus group.
All right, I'll open up for self-nomination or discussion from within our group. So the self-nomination?
I'll go for it.
I would almost say no,
Okay.
because we already will have a focus on flight schools. And I don't really want to cause there to be an imbalance with potentiality there.
Just got vetoed.
Now, I'm trying to be fair.
All right, was that a self-nomination? Sure. All right. Anyone else? All in favor, James? All right, you are appointed. Thanks, James. Appreciate your service.
Did you mention the commitments to this?
So many. I mean, I guess we probably should talk about that. So, the focus groups is set up to meet about 5 times, about an hour each meeting. And you will help the consultants review data from flight tracks, from the boards and presentations they want to do that they're going to use to present to the public and the public open houses. So these focus groups are one part of a comprehensive engagement plan with communities. Focus groups are to be focused on specific areas around the airport, the immediate vicinity, and the airport users. And then the general public outside of that vicinity can always attend public open houses, and their opinions will still want to be heard and contribute to the cause and to the study. But overall, the community focus groups is really about the immediate periphery of the airport.
Will there be pizza?
What kind of pizza do you want?
Yeah.
Pizza party.
It wasn't part of the motion.
5 meetings of an hour-ish over the course of a year, so.
Yeah, I think I can handle it. And just to confirm, there's time, this is our representative out there for these groups, but we as a collective still have several chances to weigh in.
Correct. I don't have the number. We were looking through the kind of the schedule today. There will be a number of times for RSNH, who's the Part 150 consultant, that will still come to the AAB and present to you about their findings. certainly when the noise exposure models have been developed both for current and future airport capacity, they'll come and present those as well. And also they'll do those for the public open houses that will occur as well. And I think there are 3 public open houses, and there's a couple different presentations here and through the BCC as well. Thank you for that.
All right. Board, any other questions about community focus groups? Thank you for your willingness. Pizza aside.
We'll get you pizza.
Community engagement.
Community engagement. So I have a couple of updates and just follow-ups from last month when I kind of presented you our overall plan. I had talked about quarterly town halls, and I just wanted to update you that those are going to start. We'll have one in May, in August, and November. Those dates are still TBD, but as soon as they are confirmed, we'll obviously share here, but also on social media, website, and our newsletter. And the same thing for our airport tours. Starting in May, we don't have those dates set quite yet. We're trying to just solidify some details, but once those are, I will share to make sure everyone's aware and can join and be involved on social media, on our website, and in our newsletter.
Are the tours going to be an air show type thing or?
No, just like a tour of the airfield, of the airport. Yep. And then I realized that I shared so much about social media last month, but I didn't actually tell you where to find us. So our social media handles, it's just at FlyRMMA on across the board. And on Facebook, if you just typed in Rocky Mountain Metropolitan Airport, same with LinkedIn. And then our website, of course, is flyrmma.com. But I just told you about all the things we're going to be posting, but didn't tell you where to see it at. So I wanted to make sure I gave you that information. Questions about community engagement?
It's been great to see them active. I've seen a lot more coming out there, so that's a lot of fun, and I learned random facts too. It's education.
I think one thing about the quarterly town halls that's going to be helpful is that's going to be, I use this word, I don't mean it derogatory, but it'll be like a science fair. We'll have our booth set up where you'll have Ben with his booth and like Sydney with her booth and airport booth for whatever topics. Maybe Steve gets roped into being participant in our science fair. But it'll be an opportunity for people, both airport tenants and the community, to come and talk about specific topics that are interesting to them at that specific station and sort of rotate through kind of a musical chairs type situation. And I think that'll be really helpful to help spread the information about the airport, answer questions more directly, and be more open and transparent about what's happening at the airport.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
We heard any updates on our request to raise the pattern altitude?
I have no update on that right now.
They did acknowledge receipt there.
Correct.
All right. Any other questions? And now to our next meeting is slated for May 14th. Any major conflicts on that? Are we good for May 14th? Okay. If that's it, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion carries. Thanks everyone for your time today, the conversation, and thanks for the staff for all the great presentations. So we'll see y'all next month. Thank you all so much on the